Hi, my name is Eve, and I love watching sketchbook tours. I find them so inspiring. However, I haven't actually seen that many sketchbooks from true beginner artists, and certainly very few from adults beginning their artistic journey. So, as I myself am both a beginner and an adult, I thought I would add my sketchbooks from day one in case there are others out there that also appreciate watching an artist's growth from the very beginning. I'll quickly talk about how I taught myself to draw, but I also just want to talk about how much joy art has brought me and how it's fundamentally changed me for the better. I hope that my sketches and talking about these last 9 months will be inspiring to just one person who is also just starting or thinking about starting. So yeah, let's get to it. I myself have only been drawing since last summer, so July of 2024. And as of today, I looked it up online, I've been drawing for 270 days. Not consecutively, of course, but that is the course of time I have spent drawing. I have no prior art education or experience, except for a 4-month period in 2021 where I drew Pokemon for my bullet journal. I'll show a few of those. Interestingly, I didn't have the same revelatory breakthrough with art that I had in 2024. And I think it's because I was so scared to make bad art that I would first sketch and paint the Pokemon on different paper, then cut it out and glue it into my bullet journal. I love him, he's cute. Do you know how much time that takes? I think that's testament to how unsure I was of myself and what I was capable of when it came to art. This took me over 2 hours apparently. It's also that the Tombow markers I was using bled through the bullet journal paper, but that's also the perfect excuse and rationalization for only accepting passable art and avoiding making mistakes, which I've now learned is both a crucial and honestly an amazing experience. He's so cute. So yes, I love Pokemon. Pokemon will be a recurring theme. I did a little count, and apparently in January, the theme for January was ground and rock type Pokemon, and I drew 24 Pokemon for that. February was fairy type Pokemon, and I drew 17 Pokemon for that. March was the flying type, and I drew 17 Pokemon for that. And then April, which we're coming up to now, was water type Pokemon, and I drew 18 Pokemon for that. little whooper. The reason I didn't continue, I really enjoyed it, it brought me a lot of joy, was that I was doing my master's thesis at the time, and life and other projects got in the way, so I didn't continue with it. But I think it's also because it didn't bring me the same joy as art brings me now. And I think it's because now I just dare to put my pencil to paper to see what happens. And my books aren't like, you can't tear the paper out easily, so it is what it is. And there's a freedom to that you just can't feel when you manufacture pieces like this and then paste them elsewhere. You're not afraid of failing, you're afraid of letting other people see you fail. What other people think of you is none of your business. That's the last page for this, and I could not agree more. And I think that's been a mindset that I have kept in the forefront of my mind as I continue my art journey. So prior to 2021, the last time I drew was in school when I was 9 years old. And that's because I somehow internalized that I couldn't draw, that I could never belong to the mythical class of artists. But that preconceived notion flew right out the window when I saw something on Pinterest so beautiful and so inspiring that I had to try to express myself on paper, or it felt like my brain was going to explode. It was something so incredible that it made me cast off these limitations and labels that I had held on to for more than 20 years as to what I was capable of. Sadly, I don't remember what it is that I saw that brought this about, but I cannot tell you how thankful I am for that artist's work. And I hope one day I'll come across it again and realize that that was the piece that set me on this path. Seeing that one piece has quite literally changed my life, and I really don't say that lightly, and I'll talk about that as we go. So I wanted to document this journey. So I appropriated this little Moleskine journal that my partner hadn't used since 2013. The size is really small and approachable, and its state of neglect made it less intimidating for me to use. At least in my unskilled hands, its purpose would finally be fulfilled. It felt like I kind of anthropomorphize my objects, my items that I own, but it kind of felt like I was doing it a favor. I had no idea where to start, so instead of just putting pencil to paper, I took the easy route and watched lots of art theory videos. Then I watched a video on shadow and lighting, took the plunge, and attempted to render a sphere. In between the 16th of July and the 20th of July, I inhaled video after video about art, and something that stood out to me was that a number of artists said it's important to build a visual library. So I decided to dedicate myself to studying one creature for a week, and for my first week I chose a rabbit, a creature that they're cute, but I don't really care that much about, because I knew I wanted to choose a subject I wouldn't be crushed by if I didn't get its likeness down perfectly, so I chose rabbits. I also picked up a pencil stump to blend graphite and a very fine eraser that is this one right here that I use in every single one of my drawings. It's actually my number one recommendation for art supplies for beginners, right after just plain old pencils and a kneadable eraser. Another thing I read online is that it's important to develop your observational skills as an artist. After all, you can't draw what you aren't noticing. So the approach I decided to take was to study photos of my subjects. I really took my time with each drawing, and each one became its own form of meditation. I guess I spent 30 minutes on just this bunny face. I took a class by Sori Kim on Domestika, who recommended that you understand the skeleton of a creature in order to properly place elements when drawing, and I actually found it really useful when drawing my next few rabbits. I don't think I ever revisit drawing skeletons, so maybe lesson not fully learned. But each of these drawings I probably spent at least a half hour to an hour with. I remember being able to very easily hit a flow state, and only being shaken out of my reverie when my phone timer went off, or when I was famished, or it was suddenly time for bed. The following week I moved on to a new subject. I chose cats this time because I have a cat. His name is Starbuck. No, not for the coffee, but for Battlestar Galactica, and not for the TV show, but for the book series that was written in the 60s or 70s maybe. I'm not sure. They weren't good books, but I read them in high school during a sweltering summer, and Starbuck stuck with me. Cat proportions were really difficult for me. No, they are really difficult for me. Nothing has changed. But they're especially difficult with Starbuck because he was a butterball when we adopted him. So now he has a lot of loose skin, and it makes it difficult to, sort of place where things go on his body. This is a costume that I sewed for him, a little Stegosaurus suit. He didn't really smile like that in real life. Then in August, we spent a few lazy weeks exploring the Cotswolds, England, with a pair of pups that we were watching. So I had time and energy to draw in the lavender garden each day. It was as blissful as it sounds. This is one of the dogs we watched. I clearly quickly gave up on her form, but I really like how the nose and the eye turned out. At this point, I was feeling confident enough to try drawing different subjects every day, although This guy came along so easily for me that I was really excited and decided to draw this guy as well. And I really love how his nose came out. It's very cute. It was the best holiday of my life, and the only time I've cried when having to leave. Part of my love was for the idyllic days, each of which was filled with a little bit of time for art. By this time, I had begun to watch sketchbook tours and was so inspired by the creativity, use of colors, and skill that the artists have. A favorite of mine is Hello, Mr. Forrest. He's a children's book illustrator whose work, it just makes my heart so happy to look at. This is a terrible example. This is my work, not his, but you should definitely go check him out if these colors say anything to you. So I had to go and make some sort of rendition of what he did because it just felt like I wouldn't be able to concentrate the rest of the day if I didn't get this down on paper. And this is the beginning of me incorporating color into my art. This is an Almirage, a magical little bunny from Dungeons & Dragons. I wanted some form of traditional education in art, so in September I began attending an art class in my city. None of these are from that. Unfortunately, no foundational skills were actually taught. It was more of like this experimental course, and for 4-hour classes in my second language that I'm not super proficient in, it really did my head in, so I decided to quit. Instead, I just continued to study on my own, and I also began to subscribe to a few artists on Patreon, such as Sophie McPike, who has such an energetic quality to her work, and also this very infectious, bubbly personality. I wanted to make sure that I was still playing with my art, so I followed along with some of her Scribble brigades, which in this case were 1 to 2 minute thumbnails of landscapes in these limited color palettes. Like this. These were just 1 minute scribbles. When you have to work so quickly, it really forces you to let loose and just go with it. And also choosing color combinations like these that I find awful really also helps. But it was at this point that I realized that the sketchbook was really quite constraining. The size was too small for me, so I picked up a new one from my local art store. It's the ever popular A5 Royal Talens with I think 140 GSM paper. It's cream colored, and the reason I really love it is, well, it's inexpensive, but the pages lay very flat, so it's very easy to work in. I also decided on October 1st to start with this new book, and I wanted to also participate in a social media drawing challenge. Inktober is the most well-known, but there was no way I was ready to draw with ink. Plus, it felt intimidating because that's where mainly professionals seem to gather. I chose to join Peachtober, which is where this sketchbook begins. Now, I do want to preface this by saying that I had at this point been thoroughly indoctrinated through all of the YouTube sketchbook tours and perfect Instagram posts that a sketchbook should be pretty. And I really took that to heart in the beginning of this book. Now that I've reached the end, I realized that having each page completed was actually a hindrance to the growth that I wanted to make and to what I actually wanted to do. Like, yes, I wanted to render full pieces because I love color and I love the idea that I can finish something and have a finished product, but I noticed that a lot of the time I just wanted to sketch. I just wanted to see if I could put a form to paper, and I resisted doing that. I felt like if I started something, I had to finish it. Here's another example of more Scribble Brigade stuff with Sophie McPike. I think that was a hindrance to me. I think that the bread and butter of what a working sketchbook is a place to make imperfect pieces, to experiment, to abandon projects, to thumbnail ideas, and so forth. At least that's how I perceive it personally. So please don't think that this is what the sketchbook of an amateur or even a professional should look like. If it doesn't fit your purposes or bring you joy, then it really isn't worth your effort and time. This is the beginning of Peachtober, and I decided to do Starbuck for a few of the prompts. I don't think I have any innate talent when it comes to drawing, but that feeling of succeeding at putting a subject on paper is unparalleled for me. I'm an absolute beginner. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just out here having fun. But learning how to draw has done wonders for my self-confidence. I also feel like generally I'm a pretty humble person. I at least learned to never brag about myself. But I was and am so proud that I now know how to draw, that I'm able to draw. This is the first time in my life where I've been so delighted to be proven wrong about myself that I love telling people that I'm drawing. I don't mind showing my creations. I know they're imperfect and it doesn't bother me. It's almost as though I haven't yet developed an ego that I feel I need to protect, or I don't identify myself as an artist in a way that is so crucial that I feel I have to be defensive about it. It still brings me joy. I still approach art with this childlike wonder, and I hope that it never fades and that I don't take it for granted. There are so few places in life where we aren't pressured to take ourselves seriously, and I hope I can continue to protect this space from the expectations of myself or others. Okay, so that was a lot of Peachtober. I just wanted to say a few things about it really quick. I didn't really want to pause in my impassioned rant, but just really quickly. I love colored pencil, but just to give you an example, this took me at least 4 sessions of sitting down for at least, I would probably guesstimate 8 to 10 hours just for this because of the swirls on the shell. Wow, never again. The reason that some of these pages are just quick sketches is because this is when I hit my K-drama era. I had learned about K-dramas and they sort of upended my plans for Peachtober. So that's why some of these are incomplete. Another thing I wanted to say was that for all of autumn, I didn't get to paint anything that I really wanted to because I was doing Peachtober. So on December 31st, I think, I was like, no, it might be Christmas season, but I will draw what I want to draw. So I did fall on December 31st. And then I decided I wanted to take part in another social media challenge, this time with Birdfest, because I love birds. I thought that would be the greatest challenge for me. So I took it up, but I knew I was going to have a busy January. So also on December 31st, because that was a full day where I could just do art, I tried to get a head start by doing these 3 birds as well as these oxpeckers. Until on this page, I realized I was working from the prompt list from the year previous, so I didn't even get a head start on Birdfest. So I also made this on December 31st. This was a very productive day for me, but because it was the end of the day, I only had an hour to do this, so I knocked this out really quickly, and I also came at it with the approach of play because it was so last minute. But I really like how it turned out. I got some paint here, so to cover it up, I did block letters for the name, and this became a format for the rest of the month. It was unplanned, but I kind of like how it turned out. Being able to hit a flow state with art so consistently has also done wonders for regulating my nervous system. And I felt the effects immediately in July. I started drawing and then I came out and I felt so relaxed and so refreshed, more patient, more calm, kinder. It's also probably one of the top 3 reasons why I've drawn so consistently these last 9 months. Like I said, I'm calmer, I'm softer, and I'm truly a more wholehearted person. I cannot emphasize how much I have changed as a person in the last 9 months. It's been truly transformative. I feel like I've finally come home to myself. Like, I've become a fuller, healthier version of me that I always should have been. I love that I've discovered this hobby for myself. I love how I have grown as a person. And I feel far more connected to humanity than I ever did before. And I think a lot of it has to do with developing those observational skills, because when you want to draw things, you have to look at them. And then you begin to consider what it is you're looking at. So for example, you won't see any humans in here because I tried drawing faces one day in a sketchbook that I will not show. Not because it's horrible, even though they are, but because it's literally only one page. I tried drawing human faces, and then after that point, I saw myself drawn to looking at people, and especially people of an older age. You look at the way that their eyes and their lips have settled, and the wrinkles that they have, and the resting expressions that they have, and you wonder, how did they get that way? What is their story? And so that's one of the ways that I feel like art has really helped me appreciate life in general. It compels you to slow down and consider, to exist outside of yourself for a while. I was doing a few social media things at this point. I had discovered Katie Moody and Odd Orange live drawing, so I take part in some of those from time to time. Wow, I hate this piece. This was for Katie Moody's Sketchbook Joy book launch party. I followed along with her and used gouache and colored pencil, and I just knew from the beginning that it wasn't going to turn out, so that's one of the rare times where I disengaged and walked away from a piece instead of trying to finish it. I love this. It's so simple, but this is from a trip I took to Edinburgh by myself. It was the first trip I'd ever taken by myself. And I love going to grocery stores in foreign countries to see what they had. And they had these things of goose fat, which I've never seen before. And this is literally what the label looked like. And right next to it was a product called Just Lard. It's just lard. That's it. It's just a way to sell a product. I love it. This is also from my trip. I walked by this church every day. I thought it was so beautiful. This is from watching Blue Planet. These are from my garden that is now popping up. I just wanted to sit outside in the sun and observe things. Another reason why I love art so much. At this point, I was playing Ghosts of Tsushima. I'm still playing it. And I'm also going to Japan soon, so I'm very excited for that. And I thought, why wait until you're there to draw it? You don't know if you'll ever make it. We don't even know if we'll make it to the end of the day. Do what you want to do now instead of holding out for that one moment. So that's what these are. Oh, these are alcohol marker that bled through, and I thought I would just use a brush pen. So that's the alcohol marker with colored pencil. This is a bleed through, and then I just decided to outline it with brush pen. And I actually really like how they turned out. It's kind of cool. But this is where I've wound up. I just finished this journal today, and I realized while finishing the last page that I really wanted to talk about just how much I've benefited from taking up this hobby. It's been so good for me, and I hope that making your way through my sketchbooks will be encouraging to others to continue with their sketchbooks and to continue their journey, your journey. I learned a lot from these, primarily that unfinished pieces are perfectly fine and that's actually what I crave. So my next sketchbook, which I actually already started, this guy, my focus with it is going to be, I think, embracing exactly what it is I want to draw and still trying to foster my love and joy of drawing, to keep it something valuable and precious to me. I want to learn more, so I think I'm going to start taking more serious time to study form, but I also want to make sure I just draw the things that make me happy. And right now I am re-entering my Pokemon era. I am replaying Pokemon X right now, and having really a lot of fun with that. So yeah, I started this on April 4th, and I just started with drawing the Pokemon that I've caught and that are part of my party. And my hopes for this is, well, one, to make, I guess, bad art, but to sort of do it shamelessly, but also with the objective that on one side I will study, and on the other side I will then play or try to draw from imagination what I have studied on this side. I think that the feelings that I will go through while doing that will involve failure, especially with the play side. So I think it will be a careful balance for myself, but I think I want to do that, and I think I will be a happier person for it. So I'm really looking forward to playing with this sketchbook, and I hope to, I don't know, maybe share this with you in the future, and for it to look like an actual sketchbook and not the perfect reality that the internet has caused us to curate and propagate. I hope that this was interesting for some of you out there, and that it brings you some amount of encouragement, and I wish you all the best in your artistic endeavors. Okay, bye.